Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about Jude verses 5 through 7. But I want to remind you, though you once knew this, that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed those who did not believe. And the angels, who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day, as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. So after referring to the occasion of his letter, namely the presence of apostate teachers in the visible, organized church on earth, Jude 3 through 4, Jude speaks of apostasy in Israel and among the angels and the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah. This section closely parallels Peter's descriptions of fallen angels and Sodom and Gomorrah, except that Peter replaces Israel's apostasy with the story of unbelievers in the day of Noah. Kenneth Wiest comments on this section, quote, "The instance to which Jude has reference is that of the Jews, after having been convinced by the spies of the truth of God's assertion that the land of Canaan was a land flowing with milk and honey, most productive as proved by the grapes they brought out, yet refused to enter it, not trusting God to give them the land as he said he would do. This was apostasy, sinning with the eyes wide open, and could only be dealt with by the affliction of the death penalty. That generation died a physical death in the wilderness." Christians never get beyond the need to believe and trust, and all apostasy stems from a failure to trust in God's saving promises in Christ. Just as the wilderness generation disbelieved that God would truly bring them into the land of Canaan, thinking instead that he had maliciously doomed them to die in the wilderness, the Israelites destroyed in the wilderness probably believed they were truly part of God's people. Their disobedience demonstrated otherwise. Similarly, some in Jude's community may have thought they were genuinely part of God's people, but Jude insisted that continued faithfulness is the only way to demonstrate this. Those who apostatize reveal that they were not truly members of God's people. And then it goes on to say, "And the angels, who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day." The Wiest Greek translation says it like this: "And angels who did not carefully guard their original position of preeminent dignity, but abandoned once for all their own private dwelling place, with a view to the judgment of the great day, in everlasting bonds under darkness, he has put under careful guard." 2 Peter 2:4 says, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to the pits of darkness reserved for judgment." Now the phrase "their own domain," their own, is an idiom, which means one's own private, personal, unique possession. Heaven was made for the angels, not for man. It is the temporary abode of the departed saints until the new heavens and the new earth are brought into being. But man's eternal dwelling place will be on the perfect earth. Domain is a Greek word, arche, and it refers to the domain or rule or sphere of influence given to the angels. The implication is that God assigned angels stipulated responsibility or dominion in a set place. The Greek word arche is used in the book of Enoch, chapter 12, verse 4, of the watchers, the angels, who had abandoned the high heaven and the holy eternal place and defiled themselves with women. Quote, Enoch, scribe of righteousness, go and inform the watchers of heaven, who have left the high heaven and the holy eternal place, and have corrupted themselves with women, and have done as the sons of men do, and have taken wives for themselves, and have become completely corrupt on the earth. This original state of high dignity which these angels possessed, Jude says they did not keep. The verb is terio, to guard. The verb expresses the act of watchful care. That is, these angels did not fulfill their obligation of carefully guarding and maintaining their original position in which they were created, but transgressed those limits to invade territory which was foreign to them, namely the human race. The text goes on to say, as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. So the words strange flesh, that is, flesh of a different, and in this case an opposite, diametrically opposed nature, speaks of the angels' intercourse with women, the latter being forbidden flesh. The sin of the angels was against nature. In the case of the cities mentioned, it was the sin which Paul mentions in Romans 1:27, a departure from the natural use and against nature. Just as the incarceration of the fallen angels is an example of God's judgment upon sin, so the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Are set forth is the Greek verb which means to lie exposed, and is used in classical writings of food on the table ready for the guests, and of a corpse laid out for burial. The word example is a Greek word from the verb dikuniomai, to display or exhibit. So the noun therefore refers to something which is held up to view as a warning. 2 Peter 2:6-10 says, And if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction by reducing them to ashes, having made them an example to those who would live ungodly lives thereafter, and if he rescued righteous Lot, oppressed by the sensual conduct of unprincipled men, for by what he saw and heard that righteous man, while living among them, felt his righteous soul tormented day after day by their lawless deeds, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from temptation, and to keep the unrighteous under punishment for the day of judgment, and especially those who indulge the flesh in its corrupt desires and despise authority. Daring, self-willed, they do not tremble when they revile angelic majesties. In Matthew 11, Jesus addresses Capernaum, And you, Capernaum, who are exalted to heaven, will be brought down to Hades. For if the mighty works which were done in you had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I say to you, that it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for you. So wrapping it up, brothers and sisters, Jude verses 5-7 really speaks as a giant billboard, if you will, warning the coming generations of what will happen for those individuals who commit the same sins as Sodom and Gomorrah, and the same sins as the fallen angels who cohabitated with men. Only certain destruction and vengeance of eternal fire awaits those who dare transgress God's law in this way. God bless.